Welcome. In this phase, we want to discuss and introduce some security frameworks and security models. We'll introduce the goals of security and set some expectations for the next several modules in the future. So the goals for security are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are classical security goals. Confidentiality refers to limiting the access to information to only those people who own it or who have been explicitly authorized to access it. Now this implies that we have identified the user. We need to know who before we can determine if they are allowed to access a specific piece of data. Now there are two related concepts here called need to know and least privilege. Need to know refers to the concept that a particular user may not need to know a specific item of information. Consider a healthcare professional who is authorized access to patient records in a generic sense, but unless they are working on your case, they don't need access to your information. They don't have a need to know. Least privilege is a principle we follow to minimize our attack surface. We want to authorize our users and the programs they use the least amount of privilege, the least amount of access to information that we can and still allow them to accomplish their jobs. Integrity refers to data being consistent with its expected state. This does not necessarily mean that it's correct, but it means that as I stored it, when I return to it, it is as I expect it to be. It hasn't undergone unauthorized or unanticipated change. Again, this is related to identity. I need to know who the user is to determine if they are or not are allowed to access or change data. Another related property is called non-repudiation. Repudiation is the act of refuting or claiming to have not performed a task that you have performed. An example would be going to an ATM, making a withdrawal. I have my cash in hand, but if I go to the bank the next day and claim to have never made the withdrawal, I am repudiating the act of making the withdrawal. Non-repudiation is a property of information security that makes this repudiation act difficult or impossible and is thus highly desirable. Availability means simply that the information or the system is available, it's functional when you expect it to be, and it performs its tasks within its design parameters. And frankly, this is probably the most challenging of our three goals to satisfy. Some more terms that we'll introduce here, we'll use these throughout the rest of the course. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability apply to both data at rest and data in transit. Data at rest refers to data in storage on a handheld device or on a disk or database in the back end. Data in transit is the data being transmitted from one device to another, and they have different security requirements. Defense in depth is another fundamental security principle, and the idea here is that we have multiple layers of defensive mechanisms. Consider getting dressed for cold weather. You wear undergarments, then outer garments, and perhaps an insulating layer, an overcoat, and maybe finish off with an outer rainproof document. Multiple layers of defense against harsh weather, so that if any one fails, I have additional mechanisms that can help save me from the bad outcome. So many tools exist in the confidentiality, integrity, and availability toolbox. We've mentioned the software development lifecycle previously, the importance of integrating security at all phases, particularly at the beginning of the lifecycle. We briefly mentioned OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, and we will in future modules talk about STRIDE threat modeling, attack surface modeling, static and dynamic analysis testing techniques, penetration techniques, the importance of learning from failures, and finally a dive into cryptography, public key infrastructure, the secure sockets layer, and transport layer security. Thank you.